Good news, everyone. Patrick here from Evil Genius Zero on YouTube and Facebook, bringing you another DC versus Marvel comparison video. This time we are going to talk about the evil geniuses, the villains, those maniacal fuckers. We're going to talk about them. This video topic series was suggested by Kasey Dye, my diehard fan on Facebook. If you guys would like to talk about any topics with me, please make sure to suggest them. They can be on either Facebook or in the comment section here. I'm on top of everything, or at least I'm trying to be. And so let's talk it out, bitches. Alright, so in my last video I discussed Batman and Spider-Man, and basically the winner, spoilers, was Batman. And the reason for that is he has better villains. I wish I thought of this the entire time I was editing the video, and that is, great heroes require great villains. You absolutely need them. They're 100% necessary. They're 100% needed, because without them, there's just no dramatic purpose, right? Moving right into it. The things I look for in a villain, are they maniacal? I just like it. Do they have an agenda? Are they a hero in their own mind? Do they have tragic flaws that explain their behavior or why they aren't able to achieve the things that they want to achieve, that sort of thing? If they have powers, do they have a reasonable explanation? That's a general theme for me. If you haven't caught on, I like things to have an explanation. Sometimes I'm willing to accept it. Like the Guardians of the Galaxy, there's no explaining anything in that fucking movie. I love that shit. I've got 4 fucking Guardians of the Galaxy posters. They are one of my favorite movies in the last 3-4 years. And both two. They're 2 of my favorite movies in the last 3 or 4 years. And so there's no explaining that stuff. There really isn't. But it helps if you have explanations. For me, it really does. Especially the longer the format. So TV shows, I expect more explanations and you know, that sort of thing. Motivations that I like in villains. Revenge. I like if they are trying to save or remake the world in their own image or to their ideals. You know, I think that it's important. I think idealism is important, especially in this medium, in these mediums. I think that without ideals, like, stories should be about, not that they need to only be about idealistic people, but without goals, without ideals, without things to strive for, what are we doing? What is the story about? You know, if they're just trying to make $1, I don't give a shit about them. I just don't. Do they have a character fault or flaw, like obsession or something like that drives them? I guess revenge could technically be filed kind of as a subcategory on this, but revenge is such a common motivation for the villains that we see that I feel like it kind of divides that. I feel like revenge deserves its own breakdown. So let me talk about some of my favorite villains. Lex Luthor, Ra's al Ghul, Sinestro, Amanda Waller, right? And actually, you know what? Poison Ivy too. They have common things about them, right? There's a thread, if you really want to trace it, running through all these people, and that is that they are trying to maybe not necessarily Amanda Waller. I forget. There's a thread running through these characters in that they are all trying to remake the world in their own way. Some of them are more maniacal than others. You know, they all have tragic flaws, but they are all trying to remake the world in their own image, and they are very much the heroes of their own story. Lex Luthor, in a very real way, has as his arch nemesis Superman, the most powerful, most dangerous person on the planet Earth. And if Lex is not successful in his head, Superman will conquer the Earth and will destroy it. So he is living in the first part of an invasion that he wants to prevent. He is trying to help humanity survive. Yes, he wants the attention. Yes, he likes the spotlight and the praise and all that stuff. But he really he's trying his best to be his own hero. And that's what I like about him. And you could say the same thing about Ra's al Ghul. I talked a lot about Ra's al Ghul in the last video, and so I don't want to like play on that too much. Sinestro, I think, is the same thing, right? So like Sinestro, part of his major motivation, and I don't really know the Green Lantern stories that much. And I honestly I don't know Lex Luthor that well. I watched a bunch of Smallville and shit like that, and I've seen every Superman movie, I guess, but I don't think that those are fair characterizations of the character Lex Luthor. I've seen him in like Young Justice, that kind of stuff. Sinestro, from what I understand of his backstory, his planet was destroyed, and he is like one of the last of his kind, and he kind of blames his own police force that he's a part of, the Green Lantern Corps, and so he uses the power. He abuses his power, which is kind of a cool concept to see in such a vanilla medium as comic books, right, and movies. But he abuses his power. He somehow acquires a yellow ring, which is like, in a certain sense, more powerful because the because of the way the color spectrum works in Green Lantern mythology or whatever. Green beats yellow, right? Like kind of like rock paper scissors. So that's cool for him, and he used to be a Green Lantern, and I think he might even still have the ring, or something. But so that's Sinestro. Amanda Waller, I believe it's similar, except that, like, with the caveat, she's not necessarily trying to remake the world. She's just trying to maintain the order. She's trying to like hold back the flood of these changes that are happening to the world so fast that people can't understand, and she's just trying to manage that. And again, it's the methods that make her a villain to some extent. She is willing to she is willing to do things that other people aren't, and that's what makes her a villain. Similarly, on the Marvel side, so Magneto, right? He wants to save his people. He wants to remake the world so that mutants, Homo superiors, are respected, and he doesn't necessarily want to kill all the plain humans, all the vanilla humans, but he needs them to accept mutant kind. Otherwise, they're going to kill everybody that he knows and loves, and he's already seen that. He survived the Holocaust, so in most iterations of the character, he survived the Holocaust. So it's also kind of like, in a certain way, a revenge plot for him, and or a maintenance plot. Like, he's just trying to hold on to what he has. Doctor Doom is very similar to that as well. So he is kind of the king of his country, and I can't think of the name of the country because who cares? But he is the king of the country, and he's trying to make sure that the people there are safe and taken care of, and not being abused by the rest of the world, and respected, and all that kind of stuff. but he also kind of wants to take over the world and remake it in his image, right? That's a big part of his motivations. I don't know Doctor Doom that well. I hate the Fantastic Four. I read a couple of comic books that have him in as like a secondary or side character or something like that. Like the X Factor, he was involved in, like Layla Miller, one of my favorite characters. Her coming back in time and yada yada yada. You don't care about all that. We're not really talking about Layla Miller, although she's awesome and she knows stuff. She's cool. Um, so I guess those are the big. These are the people that really connect for me on that motivational scale. You also have the Joker. Have different motivations, right? So like the Heath Ledger Joker, he is driven by this desire to remake the world in his image, in a chaotic image, right? But your typical Joker is just kind of like, he's a criminal. Yeah, he's like the antithesis, the foil for Batman in that, you know, um, he wants to bring about a more chaotic world and stuff like that, but it's a more violent world, less controlled, that sort of thing. But he's not, it's not driven by. He's not like a megalomaniac. He's just not. Bane is maniacal in his own way, and he has an agenda. I don't know that he thinks he's a hero. I don't know that he is driven by like a desire for revenge or something like that. But he is driven, and I really respect that about him, from the comic books at least. I talked about him a lot in the other video, so if you really want to know, you can check the description, and I'll have a link in there. My thoughts on him. Sorry, if you really want to know my thoughts on him, I can't complete sentences, but so maybe you don't want to know, but there it is. Sabretooth is driven primarily by revenge, and like one of the things that I read somewhere about Sabretooth at some point was that like every year on his birthday, Sabretooth will go and like track down Logan, James Howlett, whatever you want to call Wolverine, and they will fight to the fucking death almost, but they can never kill each other because they both have these healing factors. And Sabretooth is strong. I haven't really talked about this too much, but I don't really like. I don't mind if supervillains are super villains, like super powered, but I don't really like anybody to be too crazily strong, right? Or powerful in some kind of way. Like the Hulk or whatever, he is strong enough that it's interesting. He can pick up cars and throw them and shit like that. But like, his biggest thing is the healing factor. And the animalistic senses and honestly like his motivations, and he's just awesome. And I really fell in love with him, honestly, kind of more of as an anti-hero in The Exiles, which was a comic book in the early aughts into the middle aughts. I read every issue. I loved it. It was kind of like Sliders meets X-Men. I will do a whole other conversation about that won't be a part of this series at some point about those comics, because I love them so much. Loki, again, it seems like it's a tragic flaw thing. He's stuck in his brother's shadow, and he hates it, and he just wants to take his brother down a peg. That's really it. I get it. I see that amongst my sisters. I see that at work every once in a while with coworkers. How people just kind of want to like throw an elbow here and there kind of thing. It's just an interesting motivation for somebody. And he was played very, very well by Tom Hiddleston in the at least two of the movies. I really, really liked him in Avengers. I thought he was suave. I thought he was interesting. I saw him in both. I think he's in both Thor movies as well. The second Thor movie I didn't like as much, but the first one was all right. The next two characters I'm going to kind of talk about together because I know about them both from the same thing, and that's Jessica Jones. So Nuke and the Purple Man, also known as Kilgrave in the story. So one of the reasons I really like them is that they both have these cool superpowers, but they're super limited, and they explain them really well. They have rules and obvious limitations and um, costs to using them. Like Nuke is basically driven insane by the things that make him strong and powerful. Right? He takes these drugs. They make him strong. They make him fast. They make him, I guess, heal and or less sensitive to pain, but they drive him crazy and he becomes addicted to him also really quickly. Um, the Purple Man has this awesome power in that he can impose his will on you through his voice. So if he tells you to do something, you got to do it. And like they show some people resisting it a little bit, but like it like pains them to do it, and they can't do it they really can't do it at all. But they certainly can't do it for long. Like he could tell you to kill yourself, and you're going to kill yourself. And he does that to people. Um, and so because of that, his powers also manifest like they have this like circular relationship with his personality, and that they drive his personality to be narcissistic. They drive his personality to be impatient. They drive him to be demanding and flippant with people, right? But also because he's that way, because he's got these character flaws that are fed by his powers, it makes the way that he uses them that much worse. You know, he basically rapes every woman he comes into contact with. Like any woman that even looks at him and he wants to have any kind of have sex, and he wants to in any way have sex with her, he tells them to have sex with them, and they have sex with them. And so like that's outside of their will. It's basically rape. And Jessica Jones, the main character of the show, was basically systematically raped by him for months. Oh my god. And like kept as a prisoner. And she can't even express her own feelings. Not just like she can't, do anything about it, but she can't even express her feelings when he's around. So and again, he was played perfectly, perfectly by David Tennant in the series, and it made me fall in love with David Tennant. I gave Doctor Who a second chance because of that shit, and I ended up liking at least his part of Doctor Who, and it was just beautiful, 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 beautiful. Can't say it any more than that. The last thing I want to talk about, and I don't know if this is really like it's not like a classic definition. I'm stretching it quite a bit to get humanity slash the Sentinels in the conversation about villains, because in the X-Men they are the major antagonists. The war is between humanity and the and mutant kind, and the X-Men are kind of trying to prevent that war from happening, but in reality it's still there. There's still hatred, there's still abuse, there's still like civil rights issues, there's still all kinds of stuff that the X-Men have to endure because humanity like can't accept that the world is changing, right? And it's just it's an interesting dynamic. Apocalypse is great. Let me talk about Apocalypse for a second. Apocalypse from Marvel. Um, he's okay. I shouldn't say he's great. There are problems. I don't like that like he's this super powerful dude, but just hangs out for like 3,000 to 5,000 years, and there's no real explanation for that. In the movie, the most recent kind of piece of trash movie that they made, like it's not there's things about it that are okay. Like there's fun to be had, and it's cool to see like a more colorful version of the X-Men and a more like inspired by what I'm familiar with from my childhood, like, and the TV shows and the cartoons and all that shit. Like, it's cool to see that. And I also don't generally like his character design. I think it could be a little bit more subtle, or something. I don't know. they need to work on that because it's not that great. I've read The Age of Apocalypse almost in its entirely in the 90s and on like I guess maybe after that in on like Marvel Unlimited or something like that. And I really liked it. I thought it was an interesting story and an interesting take and on the way people would be different in different settings. And Apocalypse's major motivation is that he wants to force a change in the entire gene pool of humanity. He wants us all to be competing and only the strongest survive and that kind of stuff. It's very not Darwinian. People call this Darwinian though, so it is, but like very taking these concepts of Darwin and like applying them in a moralist, like as if they were like as if like fitness was a judgment on morality or something like that, and or an absence of morality, kind of. So, so Apocalypse is kind of cool. What I was trying to say earlier, though, and I got kind of sidetracked because I was like, "Oh, Apocalypse! I meant to talk about him." Was like people are gonna shit on me because I'm not talking about Thanos and Darkseid, or I don't know, Brainiac. Um, the Toy Master, whoever your fucking token dude is, you're gonna be pissed off that I didn't say them. And some of these guys are probably okay, maybe even good characters. I'm just not that familiar with them because you can only read, you can only do so much, guys. And like Superman is never gonna appeal to me. I watched the Arrow. I watched Flash. I'm not current on either of them, but I will be soon, as soon as I get to Netflix. And I think that there are problems to both of those stories. I really actually do like these limited stories or these alternate universe tellings. Like I saw the movie version of Flashpoint, and I thought it was really good. And I like some of those other like limited cartoon story versions of things, and it's faster paced and things are happening. I like that, but what are you gonna do? People are gonna complain that I'm not talking about their favorite villain, and I'm sorry about that. These are my favorite. These are the people that I think are like archetypal villains. These are the people that I think are important villains in these universes. Even more like they swing way above their weight class. Lex Luthor is a human being who like is in the culture, in our culture. Darkseid, he's not really in the broader culture. A lot of nerdy people will understand who he is, and really deep comic book people or whatever, they're gonna know, but Darkseid is not that important. Sorry, he's just not. I just don't like these overly powered things. I just don't. Like you can fly. You can be strong. You could run really fast. You can do all these things, but like there needs to be a reasonable limit, and like why fly? Why have a spaceship if you can fly through space? Why do that? Why, if you can teleport faster than light by yourself, why have a spaceship? You know what I mean? Why have a boom tube if you can do that? If you have a boom tube or mother box or whatever the hell, whatever I'm trying to talk about there, if you can have that, then why have a spaceship? You wouldn't. You just travel. You might have like weapons spaceships, I guess, but wouldn't you just make them big enough to just squeeze through a boom tube? I mean, that would be the convenient thing to do, wouldn't you? Anyways, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked again. So, who's the winner? You decide who your winner is. But my fucking winner is Marvel. And basically, The reason for that is if you take away the Batman villains, you're not left with much, especially on this list. And you have to remove the Batman villains. They don't make sense in their own broader universe. They is the Joker or the Penguin or Scarecrow even going to fight against Superman? The Flash? Even fucking Cyborg or Captain Marvel? I mean, Wonder Woman will put these fucking dudes in the floor before she eats her breakfast. They only make sense against Batman, maybe Green Arrow, a couple of the other, lesser heroes in the Justice League, but that's it. Martian Manhunter wouldn't even have to fucking move a finger. You could just telekinesis them the fuck out of there. They don't make sense. Even Bane, who's like the most, super powered Batman villain that I can think of, or Mr. Freeze, or one of those guys. The Man Bat, or Clayface, or any of these like actual powered individuals that Batman routinely fights. They don't stand a chance against the Justice League or the other members of the Justice League, so they can't share villains really. It doesn't make any sense. I think it's Marvel. I think Marvel actually has the better villains. I think that it comes down to one or two. I think that the best villain is still going to be Lex Luthor. For the same reason, in a lot of ways, that Batman is the best superhero, and that is that he's a human, right? And so his accomplishments are much more remarkable because he doesn't have all these superpowers. He just has a brilliant mind and the will to do the things that he's trying to do. Marvel 1. Ding, ding, ding. It's over. The next video will be on heroes. And we'll talk about heroes. And I think in that one I'll have a larger discussion about my problems with the powers of people, right? And how overpowered a lot of these superheroes are. So Marvel's the winner. I want to again thank Kasey Dye for recommending this video series to me. And sound off in the comments below on the YouTubes, or you can send me messages on Facebook at Evil Genius Zero. And thank you guys. It's been great. Let's talk about some more bitchy stuff tomorrow. All right. Can't even remember what I'm supposed to say there. I'm tired. It's late. I'm wearing purple because of the Purple Man. Purple's the color of villains. Just saying. Purple. Let's talk it out, bitch. That's what I was supposed to say. Let's talk it out. DuckTales. Woohoo.